All right, so have you ever, like, thought you knew a word in another language, but then found out it means something totally different?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, picture this.
Yeah.
You're in Germany,
Okay.
and you want to be polite, so you offer your host a gift.
Oh.
Sounds harmless enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, you might be surprised to learn that in German, gift actually means poison.
Oh, wow.
Instead of, like, coming across as thoughtful, you've just presented them with the potentially deadly substance.
Yeah.
Talk of an awkward situation.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky world of false friends. Words that look and sound similar between languages but have completely different meanings.
Right.
And today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of English-German false friends,
Okay.
exploring how these linguistic traps can lead to, like, hilarious and sometimes embarrassing misunderstandings.
Yeah.
What's so interesting about these false friends is that they often stem from shared linguistic roots.
Exactly. English and German both belong to the Germanic family of languages. So it's easy to assume that similar sounding words have the same meaning.
Right.
But as you'll see, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
These seemingly small differences can have a big impact,
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to communicate effectively.
So let's get into some specific examples.
Okay.
Let's say you're talking about a recent event, and you want to emphasize that it's happening right now.
Okay.
You might be tempted to use the word actual, like
Mhm.
the actual cost of something.
Okay.
But in German, the word aktuell means current or up to date.
Right.
So it's easy to see how this mix-up could lead to some serious confusion,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to make a point about timing.
Absolutely. And one way to avoid these mix-ups is to pay close attention to the context.
Yeah.
Words don't exist in isolation.
No.
They derive their meaning from the surrounding words and phrases.
Right.
So instead of just memorizing individual words,
Hmm.
try to learn them in the context of sentences and real-life situations. This will help you develop a deeper understanding of how the language is actually used.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So another tricky pair is brave and brave.
Oh, yeah.
You might think you're complimenting someone's courage by calling them brav in German.
Oh.
But be careful.
Yeah.
In German, brav actually means well-behaved,
Right.
more like a well-trained pet.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine calling a fearless firefighter brav.
Yeah.
Not quite the heroic image you were going for.
All right. That's a great
Okay.
example. And it highlights the importance of active learning.
Okay.
Don't just rely on dictionaries.
Mm-hmm.
Immerse yourself in authentic German content.
Right.
Read German books. Watch German movies.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to German music. Anything that exposes you to the language in a natural setting.
Yeah.
This will help
Yeah.
you pick up on the nuances of word usage and avoid these embarrassing blunders.
So it's not just about learning the word.
Right.
It's about understanding how they're used in real life.
Exactly.
Okay, this next one is a biggie, especially if you're dealing with numbers.
Right.
The word billion exists in both English and German,
Okay.
but the meaning is vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
In English, a billion has 9 zeros,
Right.
but in German, a billion has 12 zeros.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about a potential thousand-fold misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the consequences of mixing those up in a financial report or a scientific study?
That's a perfect example of how false friends can have real-world consequences.
Yeah.
And it highlights the need for precision,
Right.
especially when dealing with large numbers.
Right.
When you're working with German text, be extra careful with numbers and always double-check the context to make sure you understand the intended meaning.
Yeah.
Using scientific notation, for example,
Ah.
can help avoid ambiguity.
So sometimes these false friends aren't just single words.
Right.
They can even pop up in entire phrases.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to say, does that make sense?
Yeah.
In German.
Okay.
You might be tempted to translate it directly as macht das Sinn. But in German, Sinn machen means to be meaningful or to have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be asking if something has a reason to exist
Yeah.
rather than if it's understandable.
Exactly. That's a subtle but important distinction.
Right.
It's like saying that makes purpose instead of that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it shows how these false friends can really trip you up if you're not paying close attention.
It's amazing how these seemingly small differences can create such significant shifts in meaning.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about libraries.
Okay.
In English, library is pretty straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
but in German there's Bücherei and Bibliothek.
Right.
Both words translate as library,
Yeah,
but there's a subtle distinction.
that's right. Bücherei is more informal.
Okay.
and usually refers to a lending library, like the kind you'd find in a neighborhood or a small town.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you'd go to borrow books to read at home.
Right.
Bibliothek, on the other hand,
Right.
is the more formal term and often refers to a larger research-oriented library, like a university library or a national library.
Yeah.
It usually has a wider collection of books and resources,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a place where you'd go to study or do research.
So even seemingly basic words can have hidden complexities.
Yeah.
It's like there's a whole other layer of meaning that you need to be aware of.
Right.
Okay, last one for this section.
Okay.
And this one could really lead to some awkward moments.
Right.
Imagine you're trying to express sympathy to someone in German.
Mm-hmm.
So you use the word sympathy.
Oh.
Seems logical, right?
Yeah.
But hold on.
Well, in German, sympathy doesn't actually mean sympathy in the sense of feeling sorry for someone. Instead, it's closer to fondness or liking.
Oh, wow.
So if you tell someone you have sympathy for them, you're
Yeah.
essentially saying you like them or have a good feeling towards them.
Yeah.
Definitely not the same as expressing concern or empathy.
Wow. So using sympathy to express condolences could lead to a very strange and uncomfortable situation. So what can we learn from all of this?
Well,
It seems like understanding these false friends is crucial for anyone who wants to truly master the German language.
absolutely.
But there's more to uncover. We'll be back in a flash to tackle even more fascinating examples of English-German false friends. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of English-German false friends.
Yeah.
As we've seen, these linguistic quirks aren't just about avoiding, potentially awkward situations.
Right.
They offer a fascinating glimpse into how languages evolve and interact over time.
Okay.
Think of them as linguistic puzzles.
Yeah.
Each one revealing a bit more about the history and culture behind the words we use.
It's like we're uncovering these hidden connections between words that seem so familiar on the surface,
Right.
but then they take you by surprise.
Yeah.
Take the word become, for instance. It seems pretty straightforward in English, right?
Yeah.
But you might be surprised to hear that its German counterpart, bekommen, actually means to receive or get.
It's a totally different concept.
That's a great example of how words with a common ancestor
Yeah.
can drift apart in meaning over centuries.
Wow.
It's like they started at the same point,
Mm-hmm.
but then took different paths,
Right.
evolving alongside the cultures that use them.
Okay.
Imagine trying to describe a personal transformation using bekommen.
Right.
You'd end up with a sentence like, I received to be a successful artist, instead of, I became a successful artist.
Yeah, I would definitely raise some eyebrows.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of another tricky pair, fabric and fabric.
Oh, right.
In English, fabric refers to cloth or material,
Yeah,
but in German, fabric means factory.
right.
It's easy to see how this could lead to some confusion if you're not careful.
Absolutely. Imagine talking about the fabric of a dress in German using the word fabric.
Oh, wow.
You'd essentially be saying factory of a dress,
Right.
which wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah.
These seemingly minor shifts in meaning.
Highlight the importance of understanding the context in which words are used.
So it's not enough to just memorize vocabulary.
Right.
You really need to develop a feel for the nuances of the language.
Exactly.
Okay.
On one hand, you want to be aware of these false friends,
Yeah.
so you don't end up saying something you don't mean. But on the other hand, I think they offer a really fascinating window into the richness and complexity of language.
Right.
They're a reminder that language is constantly evolving and adapting,
Yeah.
and they challenge us to think more deeply about the words we use.
It's like they're constantly reminding us that language is a living, breathing thing.
Right.
Always changing and evolving.
Yeah.
And by understanding these nuances,
Mm-hmm.
we gain a deeper appreciation, not only for the language itself,
Right.
but also for the history and culture that shaped it.
Exactly. Remember, the process of language learning is never truly finished.
Yeah.
There's always something new to discover,
Mm-hmm.
a new nuance to explore,
Right.
a new false friend waiting to be uncovered.
Yeah.
So stay curious, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun with it.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of English-German false friends.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of linguistic twists and turns.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, happy language learning.
Thank you for listening. If this topic piqued your interest, you can contact me via my website for German classes on all levels, in person in Dubai, or online worldwide.